Hi guys, I know you've read the title of this video. Trilegal was one of the places that I really wanted to do an internship in, especially because I'm currently in my fourth year and it's a very good time to be interning at firms that you see yourself working at. Unfortunately, like you saw in the title, I did not get through this time, and I'm a big believer in learning from people's mistakes, learning from my own mistakes. And I remember wanting to have a little bit more clarity on the process, and I texted so many people on LinkedIn, and I finally have a little bit more clarity on the process, of course, because I've gone through it. I had applied many times before and I had gotten rejected. I have applied even in my third year and even a little bit sooner in my fourth year, but I never got a response. It wasn't really a rejection, I just didn't get a response. I don't know personally if being ghosted is better or getting a rejection is better. I am still undecided on that. So basically, I applied for my trilegal internship directly from their website via their form, and I got a response pretty quickly this time. I had applied in the beginning of October 2025, of course, and I got a pretty quick response. Like, I think within a week, I got a response to do assessment number one. Now, the way this works is that you apply on the website through their form, and then there will be two assessments. So, if you pass assessment number one, you'll get assessment number two. Assessment number one, I had like about a 5 day window to complete the assessment. So, anytime between 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on any of those 5 days, I could have sat for around 45 minutes. So, I texted people on LinkedIn and I discussed with a few other people that I know that have given the assessment about like what exactly to expect. And all of this happens through a website called Hire Pro, which you can probably try to simulate like what these proctoring websites look like. So you need to have like a good camera, good microphone, good internet. I remember that internet was a big issue in my assessment number one, so make sure that you don't mess that up. The structure of assessment one was pretty similar to CLAT. So if you look at CLAT, right, there are logical reasoning questions, there are some legal reasoning questions, there are math questions, and there's English questions. There were 30 questions in total in assessment number one, and you have 45 minutes to attempt them. And each section also has its own like timer. So once like 15 minutes or something are over, you can't attempt any more questions from that section anymore, and you get bumped to the next section. So you have to be very mindful of time, and there's a timer on the side. The English section was very simple. It was just like very elementary grammar, and like anybody, like genuinely anybody can solve the English question. You just have to say the questions out loud and you'll be able to figure it out. Where I messed up in assessment number one was definitely in the math section. So the math section was very difficult for me, and I left 3 questions unanswered in the math section because I genuinely was like, I have no idea how to answer these because I literally forgot the Pythagoras theorem. Maths is not my strong suit, but I know that my other sections went really well. It was like percentages, so do percentages very well, do profit and loss very well, do so there's percentages question, profit and loss. There was one on average speed, so remember how to calculate average speed. There was one on the Pythagoras theorem because there was like one dude walking east west and then what was the shortest distance, so Pythagoras theorem. It was very elementary maths, but of course because we're in law school, I'm sure a lot of us have forgotten it, so brush up on that before going. So the logical reasoning question was pretty good, though there was like a one question which was split into like 3-4 essay, like it was like that. So the first question was about people sitting around in a circle on a table, and you had to calculate who's sitting next to who and all that stuff, and there was 4 questions or so based on that. Other logic questions were also pretty simple, like think of any like logical reasoning question that you've had in class. Remember that most of them will be like very comprehension based, so there'll be like a little excerpt given and you have to comprehend it, or like there'll be a little question given and there'll be like 4-5 questions based on that. So like it's very similar. It's not like you're solving a different question every time. Then we came to the legal reasoning part. So in assessment number one, legal reasoning was very elementary. It was things like duty of care, negligence. It was they asked me like what is a offer, invitation to offer, offer for sale. So like putting goods out into a shop, is that offer for sale, invitation to offer? Like very basic questions from like first second year of law school that I'm sure all of us would know. Think like principal agent relationship, so that X works at a bank and S is X's girlfriend, and S gives a certain amount of money to X because X is the person that works at the bank. So does X have like a duty of care? Can the bank still be held liable? That kind of stuff, because the bank is liable for whatever happens during the employees time period, like the employees क्या बोलते हैं उसको यार, were the course of employment. Questions like that and the legal reasoning thing. The legal reasoning was very short and straightforward. Like each question was like maybe a one-liner and just very simple options. So assessment number one went pretty much like I was very, very hesitant after assessment number one because I genuinely thought that I would not go through. But within 5 days, I received an email that I have to tell them about my preferences of location, about the two practice areas that I'm interested in, and about the time period, because they clearly said that they do not have slots open for January and December. So I have to pick a month outside of that. So I got the email for assessment number two on 16th October. They told me that I'll have to give two assessments based on the two practice areas that I'm interested in. The practice areas that I said I was interested in was capital markets and general corporate. So I got two assessment links, one for capital markets and one for general corporate. The way assessment number two works is you get around, I think each is like about 15 minutes long exactly. So each assessment is only 15 minutes. I started it, and there was a huge paragraph, and I had to read the entire paragraph. And there was like, it was a proposition like there's a company, and there was many things in that. The company had some O&M suit against it. The company also wanted to do some further funding. The company had a foreign subsidiary. The company also had a few competition concerns. So things like that had come up. Arbitration and Conciliation Act. So it was like what will constitute, what is very important to constitute in a arbitration petition. Is it irreparable harm, probable cause, balance of convenience? There was many options like this. So what was the most important? I had a question on the O&M suit. So what is the one most compelling piece of evidence that the petitioners have in the O&M suit? And you'd have to look in the paragraph and see, okay, this is the exact thing that could go against the company, because the company had a very related party transaction with its other company. If you have a very basic understanding of company law as well, it'll be very, very simple to crack the general corporate one, because you just have to read the paragraph very well. Now, this is where I made a mistake because I'm really over smart. I marked one of the questions wrong here because I thought that it cannot be that rule and it should be an ordinary resolution. There's only 5 questions that you have to answer in 15 minutes based on that paragraph, and the paragraph is very well, demarcated. You can tell which information is in which paragraph. Now, I'll talk about assessment number 2 in capital markets. So my paragraph was about a company that is trying to go for an IPO. So what are the basic things that they'll have to do? What will have to file in the DRHP? Okay, so their DRHP had this, or they did not disclose this. What would be the consequences of that? Mainly based on LODR and ICDR. They're not going to ask you regulation numbers, but they will give you, like, they could even give you the regulation and ask you a question based on the regulation. Also, like related party transactions and how those work. So it's mostly on things that you have to disclose in a DRHP. So if you've read through a DRHP, if you've ever seen it, and if you just read the news on like what the problems with disclosure are happening, you would be pretty clear on how to answer those questions. I think the reason that I didn't get it is because I answered one of the company law questions wrong, which is kind of a bummer, but you live and you learn. Trying not to beat myself up about it because I had a very, very bad day today getting that email. At least I'm telling myself that it's not over for me yet. I hope that if you're watching this video that you get through and you get the internship, and if you did, I would love to know. I wish you all the very, very best. And regardless of if you're interning at Trilegal or at any other firm, I hope that you find somewhere where you feel like you can really make a difference, because that's all that really matters at the end of the day. And maybe yourself. Hopefully see you next time with a more happy video.